To get started, welcome everybody. We'll call the roll, Julie.
Sure. Kara Caston.
Here.
Ken Dawson.
Here.
Christopher Espinoza.
Here.
April Finan.
Here.
And Michael Risky.
Here.
Thank you.
I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Some student recognitions.
Yep, I'll invite Courtney up.
All right.
Well, good evening, everyone. As always, it is really wonderful to start a board meeting even in the middle of summer with student recognitions. And so we have a number of recognitions today. We wanted to wait and recognize a few students so that they could be here for that recognition. And then we had some recognitions for sports that came in after school was out. So it is a perfect way to kind of kick off getting back into the school year. So first up, I believe is...
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Just want to make sure. Yes. All right. If I'll have Eric Landshoot come on up. He's going to be up here twice this evening. But first is for yearbook, and I'll let him talk about this recognition.
Hi, good evening. I'm here to recognize Kate Peterson. Kate, if you want to come up and join me. Kate, the last 4 years has been a huge asset to both our yearbook and our newspaper. I had the pleasure of teaching Kate these last couple of years in Omega in our newspaper class. And what she brought to the class every day was second to none. Not only was she recognized within our school and in our community with some of the stories she wrote, but then also, as you could see up here, the IHSA also acknowledged her great work with some of the awards that she won when she competed against other writers and other journalists in the state of Illinois. We're going to be very sad to see Kate leave because she brought so much to our program. She has a lot of great things to look forward to, and Kate, we want to wish you the best of luck with everything, and it's going to be sad to see her go because of everything that she brought to our program. So thank you, Kate, and good luck.
You might recognize Kate. Kate is becoming a regular at our board meetings. She's been here a couple of times to talk about DECA and be recognized for DECA as well. So Kate, congratulations. Next up, we have our all-state theater students to be recognized. And I would like to introduce Ariel Moses, our theater sponsor. So Ariel, come on up.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Ariel Moses, the auditorium manager at North. I'd like to recognize both Ruby and Tess. Ruby and Tess, you want to join me up here? As far as theater goes, one of the highest recognitions you can have in the state of Illinois is being a part of the All-State Theater Company. So every year at the Illinois High School Theater Festival, they basically audition kids from all over the state, and the auditions literally happen in the summer of the year before, and kids get to audition to be a part of this All-State Company, and they work as one group, a cast, a crew, a pit, to put on a production. So the 2025 All-State show was The Prom, and both Ruby and Tess were part of the scenery crew for that show. At North, Ruby Konopaki is one of our top scenery students. She actively works in building sets, painting sets, and has also branched out a little bit outside of her comfort zone. Most recently, she's a part of the ensemble and company for our varsity play, which is the complete works of William Shakespeare abridged. But as Ruby is wont to be, she isn't just in the company. She's also the props supervisor on the production. She's also the paint supervisor on the show. And that kind of work ethic is, I think, one of the main reasons why she was selected to be a part of the All-State Company. She was a part of the scenery crew. She was able to build and paint a lot of the sets for the prom, and then she was also placed in charge of labeling a lot of the set pieces. So once they transferred the show from up north down to U of I, they had to follow all of Ruby's labeling of all the set pieces and figured out where things went. Ruby was a part of the run crew for the show, and she was, I think, was instrumental in both of these fine students, I should say, were instrumental in the putting on of the prom. Outside of theater, Ruby does have a life outside of theater, believe it or not, even though she makes it everything she does. She's an avid baker, and despite being allergic to almost everything in a cake, she is quite good at it. So Ruby, we are so proud of you and your contributions, not only to DGN Theater, but to the All-State Show. The Prom was Ruby's second All-State production that she's been a part of. Tess Lorette also is a very avid scenic student and has basically been our master carpenter on productions at North and has moved up to being the assistant technical director. Tess was the assistant technical director for our musical, which is All Shook Up, and is also the assistant technical director on the complete works of William Shakespeare. For the prom, Tess was not only a part of the build crew and helped build the sets and help paint the sets, but Tess also did a lot of the rigging. And that show had a lot of video walls, it had a lot of flown scenery, and Tess worked with like a rigging professional and learned a lot about like stage rigging and was able to be a part of the rigging and fly crew for the show. Both of these students are avid theater artists. They are basically involved in every single show we do at North. We are so incredibly proud of them. I'm privileged to be able to be their teacher and mentor, and I can't wait to see the theater that they create this year. So thank you so much. Thank you, you two.
I can attest that their work is already in production. I've seen the auditorium, so we are very much looking forward to the varsity play. So thank you guys for being here. All right, next up, we have Brady Schallmoser with baseball, and we have Drew Himes here tonight. Kyle, our head coach, could not be here, but Drew is here to talk a little bit about Brady.
All right, I have the pleasure of talking about Brady Schallmoser. We've had the fortunate, over the last few years, we've had a lot of success at North with baseball. We've had a lot of talent. A lot of great baseball players come through. We've had draft picks come through. We have had a lot of D1 players come through. And it was a couple years ago, we had a loaded team. Vic's brother was actually on that team. And we're told that there's this sophomore that we just can't keep at the sophomore level anymore. He's hitting like 500 or 600 batting average. And it did no good for him to just beat up on other sophomores. So we had to bring him up. And sure enough, he came up, and he was kind of the young guy amongst some of the older guys. And he fit in great, was a great teammate. Fast forward to the next year, we won a sectional championship. Brady was a huge part of that. But you started to see his growth going from the younger sophomore. Now he's starting to grow. We get to that sectional championship, and he's a huge part of that. Coming into this season, if you were to look in the conference, expectations on the outside world were not very high for us. We knew that we had great kids, we had great chemistry, but the outsiders didn't really look at it that way. Because of Brady, we had the success that we had. We would not have been able to do the things that we did. We won 30 games this year, played for a sectional championship again. We would not have done it without this young man. His leadership, him as a teammate. I know Kyle Briscoe is the head coach, but I'm excited to be here today because I had high expectations for Brady all along, all the way back to the sophomore year. And I feel like a proud dad, proud coach almost, to see how far he's come. It's been great. He's going to go down right now as the all-time winningest player at DGN. He is one of few 100 varsity hits. I think there's 10. There might be like 10 in the history. He's going to be one of those. Two-time all-conference. What am I missing? There's a lot. There's a lot. So just want to say, we as a coach and as a coaching staff, this is one of the young, young men that you feel extremely fortunate and grateful to have in your program. So, thank you for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Congratulations, Brady. And last but certainly not least, I would like to once again call Eric Landshut up here as the head coach for our girls softball team to honor our 3 students. So come on up.
So not to repeat some of the things that Coach Heim said, but we had a lot of success and have had a lot of success. Really since I've been here, this is my 14th year associated with the softball program, 12 years as the varsity coach. And we've really had some great players come through our program. And this year was, no exception. We had, as you can see, 3 all-state players. We had several all-conference members. This year we won 25 games. We won conference. We won a tough conference this year. The last 2 years we've made it to the sectional championship, lost both years to Marist. So, we've had a lot of success as a team, and these girls have experienced a lot of success too. So I'm going to start with our second team All-Staters, and the first one is Victoria Czech. Vic's standing right next to me here. Vic just finished her sophomore year, and she's had 2 outstanding years as a Trojan. I look forward to see what Vic does these next couple years as a softball player. I also had Vic in class, which was a pleasure to have her in class because she's a very good student. And Vic plays some of the best shortstop you will see on a softball diamond. Vic puts the bat on the ball. Vic hits for power. She can run. When you talk about 5-tool players, for baseball and softball, when you talk about 5-tool players, Vic really is a 5-tool player. I think that she has a lot to look forward to in these next couple years. I definitely anticipate Vic playing at the next level. Obviously, like I said, only being a sophomore, she doesn't really, have to go down that road just yet. But it was because of Vic and her both defense and offensive abilities that led us to the team success that we had this year. So Vic, congratulations and thank you. Next, I'll talk about Ashlyn. Ashlyn Durkin's not here. All of these girls just literally got back from California and Ohio and wherever they were playing. So actually, Ashlyn is still out of state, I believe, so she's not here. But, for those of you that have read anything about our softball program the last couple years, Ashlyn has been our kind of lockdown, shutdown pitcher. Ashlyn in the fall will be playing at Florida Atlantic University, so she's still playing big-time softball next year. It was because of her that we, again, had the success that we did. Ashlyn's been our #1 pitcher for 2 or 3 years. She was always the one that wanted the ball in big games, whether it was Marist or Lockport or any of these big teams that we played. Ashlyn always wanted the ball. She's a competitor, and she was recognized as an all-conference player, an all-area player, and then obviously an all-state player, and it was very well deserved because Ashlyn is probably one of the best pitchers in the state of Illinois, and obviously competing at the high Division I level next year, she'll have her chance to prove herself even more. So congrats to Ashlyn. And then next we have Sam Lenhair. Sam has been she's a senior. Sam just graduated. She was a 3-year varsity starter for us. Sam played infield, Sam played outfield. Sam really could play anywhere. She is solid in the infield, solid in the outfield, a great left-handed bat. Was in the middle of our lineup on a competitive team, was in the middle of our lineup for 3 years. Sam overcame an injury, and that was, something as a coach that I really liked to see the past year is how Sam, had this injury and really worked hard, physically, emotionally to get back to where she wanted to be as a competitive athlete. And Sam also will be playing at the Division I level next year, having her chance to show that she belongs there as she does. And we will be sad to see Sam go because I know the program is not going to be the same without Sam in our lineup every day. And we wish both you guys the best of luck. And thank you for being such a huge asset to our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you all for coming again tonight. I know it's the middle of your summer, but we really appreciate you being here and are just really, really excited to be able to recognize these amazing accomplishments. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, and thank you, board, for letting us recognize our kids. So thanks.
We're going to take a quick recess so that the board can step outside, yes? Because it's a nice evening, even though it's steamy. And we'll go out and take some quick pictures with our students and the board. And then we'll return back to the board meeting. You're all welcome to stay for the whole meeting if you'd like to. But if you have other things to do on a wonderful summer evening, you can feel free to escape after pictures. So thank you all for being here.
What year is that baseball?
Resume.
Yeah.
In 16.
All right, so we jump right back in?
Yep, jump right back in.
Okay, so now I need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the minutes of the June 16, 2025 monthly business meeting and the June 16, 2025 closed meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Chris,
And, I'm sorry, who do?
Mike?
Mike, thank you very much. Chris Espinoza,
Aye.
Michael Riskey,
Aye.
Ken Dawson,
Aye.
April Finan,
Aye.
and Kara Caston.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, and
We have no visitors.
No
no
visitors?
visitors?
Well, no visitor slips.
No visitor slips.
Okay,
No one wishing to address the board.
no one wishing to address the board.
All right, it's me. Yep, yep. All right. Good evening, everybody. We have a few quick reports for you this evening. The yearly progress report, we changed our format this year because we're building around the strategic indicators. We used to not have indicators, so everything was very narrative-based. So this year, you've received updates throughout the course of the year. The administrative team and I worked on taking each of the strategic directions and providing an overall statement for it. These can be found on our website under the About Us page. There's a strategic plan tab, and each of the strategic directions is listed below. Underneath there, you'll see a progress update for each of the strategic directions. And if our data also has correlating state data, we provided direct links to that information as well. So it's kind of one-stop shopping. Our goal was for each of the indicators to give a 1 to 2 sentence overview statement with a link to the board presentation that was provided earlier in the year, so that for the rest of the year, if the board or the public or anybody wants to go in and see how our progress was during the 24-25 school year, these can all be found on there. So there's one here for growth of student ownership and agency. This has been provided to the board in advance of tonight, so you don't have to all read through it. Mike found one of my typos. We corrected that tonight. So thank you, Mike, for close reading. So there's one of these for each one, equitable and supportive environment. There's one for post-secondary planning. There's one report left on that that Scott and the team will bring you in August, and that will be the last report for last year. We will update this tab, or this summary recap, once Scott and the team present that to you next month. And then there's a final one for recruitment, retention, and support of high-quality staff. Since the board had an opportunity to read this all in advance, are there any questions or comments regarding those? All right, thank you. If anything comes out of it or you'd like to see anything different, please just let me know. We're kind of figuring this out as we go along, as we enter into this new way of reporting out on the strategic plan. All right, board protocols. We met in closed session with IASA and the board in June. Or I'm sorry, IASB and the board in June, which is our kind of annual board workshop on working on our protocols and practices and governance is allowed under the Open Meetings Act. We came together, discussed our board protocols, which is a public document, kind of worked through that, and then Kara and I were tasked with a couple of side quests coming out of that meeting. So these are the recommended updates in the protocols. One is around board member and superintendent communication, just being really clear about how our communication rhythm and cadence is going to be with each other, each board member and myself. There's a couple of options up there. If there's something else you would like, let me know. And if we've all been all of the returning members have been operating in a certain way over the years, I'd still like to just clarify, let me know how it is that you want to communicate in the upcoming year. We could change it at any time, right? But then we're just clear as to what the expectations are. I do commonly communicate to all of you, like I received a question about this and I let you know what was asked, but I'll be more clear in the future of saying I received a question from a board member, so you know that it was one of your peers that asked that question. I won't disclose which board member asked that question, but just so it's clear if the question's coming from the general public or another board member when I send those to you. And then finally, if a member of the community comes to you to talk about an issue, it's always our protocols to help direct them through the chain of command, but also give me a heads up that somebody came to you about that topic, because that will help me correlate if we're hearing the same kind of issues from multiple people. That might change how we respond to that or how aggressively we investigate that concern, and maybe not, it might accelerate the rate in which it moves through the chain of command. So always direct them through, as we've talked about, chain of command, lowest possible person in the organization, most direct person directly related to that in the organization to talk to, but give me a heads up that you redirected somebody that way. So this is written in the board protocols that was shared with you as a draft. This is kind of the first reading of that this month. This will come back in August for adoption and approval. If you have any other suggestions, questions about that, this is Kara and our project to work on, so feel free to reach out to the two of us if there's anything you'd like changed or modified beyond this. Kara, anything else I'm missing?
No. You covered it.
Questions for the two of us? All right, that'll be back next month. I'll turn this next one over to Scott. Scott, do you want the clicker, or you?
No, we have two slides. You have a memo that's a lot more detailed, but we decided to present you with our highlights of kind of our findings and then kind of some recommendations for our next review. So board policy 6.50 has us, is required every 3 years to look at our wellness program, which really entails our nutrition and our physical education. New this year, ISB gave some resources. One of them that we chose to use is a questionnaire. So we kind of went through that to answer some of those questions and then kind of formulate our report for you. Obviously, some of the highlights, I mean, I think you're well aware that, Chartwell's has done an excellent job for us moving away from this, school lunch program and providing our students with nutritional meals and different opportunities that they offer our students. In our programming and our physical education and health and driver's ed department is outstanding and, always rises to the challenge to provide a good wellness program for our students. So, so that's kind of some of the highlights we have from it. Like I said, we used the questionnaire that went through extensive questions. One of them, the reason why we did highlight some of the data that you saw in the larger report, but we do have a little bit here talking about PE exemptions and low income. They did ask a lot of questions around that. One of for the next slide, Hank, that we talk about our future focus, which is hard to think 3 years out, but we are, in 3 years, we will bring together a larger team to look at our wellness program. So that'll give a little bit more voices, and we're going to start a little earlier. The guide from ISB was really helpful to use, which kind of gave us the thought of let's use that earlier. And then obviously looking at data trends is always important, just like our indicator measures that Hank was speaking about. Just looking at the data and just looking at that exemption rate and our low income and, how they're being serviced and supported in the schools. So, so that's part of the review for the school wellness. I don't know if there's any questions on it for me. So we'll talk about it in 3 years. So.
Good job.
All right, end of year financial report. Turn this one over to Jeree.
Okay, good evening. All right, tonight we'll just take a look at some of the highlights that we've summarized for the year-end report for last fiscal year, 24-25. We'll start off looking at the revenues. Overall on the revenues, as you can see, we were slightly over what we had projected at 101%. We received some additional information last year before the budget relative to the replacement taxes, so we made an adjustment. Otherwise, we probably would have come in under budget because we had projected a higher amount there, but with the last minute information, we did make that adjustment. As typical in most years, we receive 100% of our property taxes that we expect. As I noted, with replacement taxes, we received close to what we budgeted. However, it was $700,000 less than it was the previous year, so it was a pretty big cut. Our interest earnings is really what saved us there. We came in about $650,000 more than what we had projected. Our local revenues, which is food service and just other general local revenues, which can be athletic admissions, play admissions, general fees for students and that came in just slightly over budget. And then with both our state and federal aid, it both slightly exceeded our expectations for the year. Any questions on our revenues for last year?
Why do you think the interest came in so high?
Well, we projected lower. We went very conservative. We met with PMA, who we use for investments, and at the time of the budget, you know, we hadn't had the election, there was a lot unknown, so we just had a conservative figure in there for interest. Okay. And here's a summary of our expenditures for the year. As you can see, we came in really just right at budget at 99%. What that means really is that we were able to contain our cost overall in our operating funds throughout the year. Salaries and benefits are the largest expense there, and we held those tight to what we had expected at the beginning of the year. Our purchase services came in just slightly under budget, and that's related to our transportation services, which came in about $1 million less than what we had projected. We, as we'd mentioned earlier in other meetings, we changed our provider to First Student for some of our special transportation needs, and doing so, we were able to save about $1 million. As far as supplies, we're right on target. Capital projects came in just slightly under what we had expected. However, our tuition for special education, especially outplacement, it came in over budget. We had a few more students outplaced more than what we had anticipated for the year. Any questions on the expenditures?
Coming in at 99% is awesome.
Yeah, that takes a team.
Yeah, the team really did a fantastic job in that regard. That is fantastic.
Well, the key difference here, when we were sitting here a year ago, if you remember, we were talking $600,000 in the red, 500, right around when the CPPRT cut came in, right? And Jury and the team got to work, especially on transportation, a couple other areas like copy paper, electricity, those kinds of things. But you can see that work was real and it's real impact. And instead of, I won't do the spoiler, but we didn't end up in the red like we thought we were going to. I'll turn that over to Jury to spike the foot.
Right, so this provides the summary of how we ended the year. And last year, when we put the budget together, we had projected our total operating fund ending balance would be right around $7 million. As you can see, it's right around $9 million. So our overall financial position is stronger than what we had expected last year at this time. And for those who are new on the board, you'll see the line working cash, and you'll see there's a transfer of $5 million out there. That was planned. So we borrowed $5 million for the athletic, the fields, and the scoreboards in field houses and such. So that was expected. So overall, we are in a stronger position than we thought we were a year ago. Which helps us for the next year, to start off the next year.
Yeah, I appreciate, obviously, I couldn't contain myself looking at these slides, but, no, I appreciate all the work that goes, because I know the wealth of detail that's behind this and everything, so, and I'm kind of jealous that you get to do that. But But even.
He's
not-
the one.
Yeah, not even looking at the transfer, I mean, just to impress how great a position we're in, just revenues, and Kara's gonna check the math, I'm sure, when I say, $2.5 million greater than expenditures, so, I mean, that's, we're lucky to be in the community that we are, right? And appreciate being the stewards that we are of their dollars, so appreciate all your efforts, and it's good to see. Yeah.
All right, job well done, team. And now the next year.
Okay, so we'll take a quick summary view of the tentative budget that we put together that I believe we started in March. Is that right, Tammy? I think we started working on it in March. So we'll start with the revenues. And some of the highlights here. Our property taxes, as you can see, they're going up just slightly over 4%. That's just reflecting the local growth and, inflationary increases. Our replacement taxes, unfortunately, we've received word from the state that we expect those taxes to also decrease again this year. Our interest income, well, we're not going with the conservative number. We're going with more of a realistic, what we think is a realistic figure this year, based upon the favorable interest rates that we have. As far as local revenues, which is the food service and the other local revenues, we're showing, the 25% looks high, but it's all relative to the amount of money that we have there. So we just are expecting this area to have some areas of growth. And then as far as state and federal aid, you'll see a decrease in both of those areas. That's based upon the information that we have right now.
Questions on revenues?
Questions? Yeah.
Dree, this reflects us getting our full expected, less than last year funding, but full expected funding regardless of what we heard in the grant funding
Correct.
previously.
That
So-
includes all federal aid that we currently have. It's just at a lower level.
Correct. So what you've heard of in the news of different funds being held back and then being released, this reflects all of those funds being released to us, but anticipating at a lower amount than what they were last year. So I just know that's an item that's been in the news, and I just want to be clear, we're budgeting as if all of the money allocated by Congress will be released and sent to us at some point over the course of this fiscal year.
And on the state aid line, it looks better than what really it is, because our categorical payments, we expect those to be decreased by a significant amount. However, Travis has secured state funding.
Thank you, Travis.
Right. In the amount of $300,000, so it, that just helped offset the amount that we expect to have a decrease in.
And Dree, for those new to the board, the categorical
Oh,
funds
sorry.
cover,
Yes, that's transportation and special education.
thank you.
What is other local revenues?
It's a long list of things. It's just everything local, so other than property taxes. So it's going to be athletic admissions, play admissions, athletic fees, E-rate, donations. It's a long list. General fees, just like registration fees.
All right, any other questions on revenues? All right, let's move over to expenditures.
All right, on the expenditures, as you can see, as a combined total, we're kind of anticipating a little over a 6% increase in our expenditures. Two of the drivers are the salaries and the benefits. That's our largest expense there. Our salaries are basically tied to the collective bargaining agreements. And then our benefits, we're just seeing an increase like everyone on health insurance costs. On purchase services, the drivers of increasing that line item are the transportation and then our commercial insurance policies. We saw a pretty large increase in our commercial insurance policies this year. For supplies, that's basically tied to technology purchases and software. That's a big chunk of what our expenses are in that line item. Otherwise, it's just the standard classroom supplies and some basic operating supplies. Capital projects, that's just all tied to whatever we have planned for the year. That's just putting, if you want to maybe talk about the various projects that we have going on this summer?
Yeah, so earlier in the spring, we talked about all of the different capital projects that we have going on. So that comes down to some of our, if you remember, we worked on our Fund 90 so that we could do our lighting and all of that for our LED replacements, for our field houses, and then the pool at North, took care of our paver work. Over at North, all of our paving work, I don't know if you've driven by South, but all of that is done, and then some other classroom renovation things, updates. So those are the majority of those funds and what we're looking at expanding. We also have some LED for our stadium lighting that we're looking at using, and that's part of that offset is that $300,000 that we were able to get from the state as well. So we do have also field house flooring. So we have that, part of that cost is associated in this fiscal year, with the remaining part of that to come in the next fiscal year. So not even what we're talking about now, but the next one. So yes, we're looking out ahead and trying to secure some things financially, being savvy, I will say, and also trying to look ahead and project. But it's really hard with changing costs, you know, when you look out further than this upcoming year.
Okay, and then the last item is our tuition, which is tuition for our students who are outplaced in other school facilities, along with our students who attend TCD. It's basically flat here, and that's really because we've had a decrease in the number of students who are going to be attending TCD this next school year, and so that little bit of savings is helping offset the special education increases.
And that isn't us choosing to send less kids to TCD, it's just them self-selecting their path here with us.
Any questions on the expenditures?
Yeah, can I just ask, so you talked about, on the revenue side, you know, the federal funding and state funding, so we've sort of talked about that. I guess, you know, just thinking about the sort of federal picture, like tariffs, things like that, or anything else reflected here in some of the stuff happening at the federal level, like purchase services or supplies, are we seeing any increases yet or predict that, or this is more just based on looking back at trends?
Phil's not here. So Phil and his team, so the tech team went ahead and ordered Chromebooks back
Okay.
February.
Before.
Okay.
Early,
All right.
early.
Again, when we're
And
talking about
so-
financially savvy, that's.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we were not hit with
Yep.
anything there.
Okay.
And otherwise, it's just pretty much standard
Okay, yeah.
supplies.
To ask.
Yeah. That was a good question. And his team already has everything, I think, for the firewall.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So that was the other big
ahead
purchase
of it.
for technology.
All right, any other expenditure questions?
Reflected in the capital projects includes the grant that we got from, for the,
At work.
yes, okay,
Yes.
yeah, the EV infrastructure?
Yes,
Gotcha.
infrastructure.
Okay.
EV infrastructure, then the LED replacement for our stadiums.
Gotcha, okay.
Are in there. What's not in there is the additional, the other grant of $500,000 for our solar, which will be here and at T99. We're waiting to see until we get more official word from that, because we don't have any local funds that we have to go towards those projects. But I will tell you that's something that we're talking about with timing, because there are some changes in lines of when we want to make sure and have that ready and planned by. So we'll be having internal conversations, and we'll give you updates on what that looks like.
Right, and the electric cars were part of that for the driver's ed program?
That's part of the
All
capital,
part of
yep.
our- Okay.
Yep.
Great funding for that, so.
Yeah, that's why you saw that increase in revenues, and then it comes right back out here.
Right, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
it's an in and out
Right.
type of a thing, but
Right.
better than just out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better in than out, than just, yeah. All right.
So then, this is our snapshot that shows our beginning balances for our operating funds, which we just looked at the year-end report. And then our total revenues versus expenditures, you'll see they're pretty much closely aligned there. The one item I forgot to mention here is, because it's not listed on the expenditure page, but there's a transfer that we make out of our educational fund every year for our operating leases, and those leases are for technology equipment. So it's the Chromebooks and then the various print devices in the buildings. There's just a rotating cycle of replacing the print devices in the buildings, and we just pay for those with a lease agreement we have with Wintrust. So as you can see, then we're anticipating ending next year going down slightly from 9 million down to 7.8 million. This is a planned decrease for the year, and then starting next year, we expect it to either be the same or go up. Our plan is hopefully to increase the fund balance. But then by year 2, the next following year out, then it definitely will be replenishing fund balance based upon our collective bargaining agreement with the teachers. We know what those expected expenditures will be in a couple of years, and so that was just part of the plan.
For our new board members that weren't here when we ratified that contract, part of the planning, I think you were all present at the board meeting where we ratified it, but part of the planning in that contract was the board is paying more upfront to recognize a larger savings down the road as we have more and more retirees in the pipeline. So we knew that we would be in a deficit spend for teacher salaries in this first year, but then we are either neutral or favorable for the remaining 4 years of the teacher's contract. So the great work that Jeree and the team did last year have actually made it so that this year we can absorb that hit, and we're still in a better position than we expected to be at this point a year ago. So it's good work all around. This is kind of an intentional spend out of our savings so that we can build that up in the remaining 4 years of the teacher's contract. So I know it always looks bad to see a red number in a year, but it's a planned red number, right? And the work was done to prepare for it in advance by the team over the course of this last year. So what else, Jeree?
No, I think that's it.
Tonight, the board votes to put it on display and to have a public hearing in August.
September.
Or in September too. Not August, in September. Between now and then, as we learn more about the financial picture, especially state funding and those different things, as you saw last year, these numbers could adjust. Unfortunately, the state's budget cycle doesn't always match up with ours. So these numbers will likely adjust and shift over the next 6 to 8 weeks in advance of approving the final budget. But this is the tentative one on display at this point. How'd I do, Jeree? I miss anything? All right, any other questions on it?
No, thanks for all the great work on this. I just want to say too that we're so grateful. This is a great example of how hard the administration works to be cost-effective, efficient, how we run things always, but we see in years like this and going into this next school year how important that is. So your great state funding, other things, so we're in a really great position despite articles every single day about the Department of Education and state funding and federal funding, like, we're in a really good, so thank you, because we know it's a lot of work, and you're doing it every year consistently, and we're very grateful to be in this position.
Yeah, thank you both, and Tammy in the back there too. Yeah, I think compared to where we were last year at this time, we were a little uneasy about what it looked like in the future, but I really appreciate everything you guys have done to get us back on track, and I think set an example for years to come, and I think other districts as well, so thank you.
All right, I'm going to turn the next one over to Travis.
So this is a great segue into this next, because we're talking about future planning, and this impacts our finances, right? So I want to invite Seth Crackle up from NANIA. He's going to present in a couple slides and give you kind of what the market is with our energy. But as we move forward, I will say that we have done a really good job as a district to try to reduce our costs when it comes to our energy, not just our rates, but also our consumption, and we're continuing to do that. One of the biggest challenges with our current infrastructure is not so much on our rate side, which it's really important, but also on like the supply side, what we're being charged related to that. So that's why the solar projects are really an important component, and us just looking at bringing down our energy consumption, right? So just briefly looking at our LED for our stadium lighting. One district saved 68% on what they spent on their electricity with their lighting by making that change. I'm not promising a 68% savings, but that's something that's out there, right? So we're continuing to look for ways that are along those lines. But we've been working with NANIA since 2009. They help us in securing rates that we can budget for, right? So that is a really important part. There are still other variables that we can't control in the energy market that affect us, but they help, and if we have questions, they've been great advisors in helping us through that process. Our current contracts, both for our natural gas and our electricity, expire this coming June. So again, we're not talking about tomorrow, but we are looking forward to that, because it's important that, and what you'll hear is the market changes pretty quickly, and we want to be able to jump at when the prime opportunity presents itself, that we can do that. So that's why we're bringing this to you now. And we're really working to mitigate the rising increase in costs that are associated with both of these. So I'll turn this over to Seth. He can introduce himself, and he's going to go through a couple of the updates and reviews.
Yeah, thank you, Travis. Can
Welcome.
you guys hear me okay? Well, so like you said, I'm really here to go over where you guys are at currently for both electricity and natural gas, go over what the market has been doing, and then, talk about, we'll show you some rate options, where the renewal rate options are right now for the future, and some of our recommendations. If you guys have any questions, do not wait, just jump in, you're not interrupting at all. But I am going to do my best. You guys have a long agenda tonight, so I'm going to do my best to be as quick and as brief as possible. So we will start with electricity first. It is the bigger expense for the district. So just kind of quick, taking stock, housekeeping here. Your current rate is 5.7 cents a kilowatt hour for, it goes by several different names, but essentially it's a fixed all-in rate. It means that you have locked or fixed all of the components that you can for electricity supply. Your current supplier is BP, the same as the oil company, the gas stations. I'm sure you recognize it. And like Travis said, that agreement is good, or your current rate is good through next June. You guys use just shy of 12 million kilowatt hours a year. And then that dollar figure you see on the right-hand side, that is just for that supply component, right? That's that 5.7 cents times your almost 12 million kilowatt hours. It does not include, the ComEd charges, taxes, fees, that sort of thing. There's nothing you can do, unfortunately, to fix or lock those costs. So go ahead. So in terms of what's been going on in the market, that blue vertical line shows approximately where you guys locked in last time. And now keep in mind, this graph is just showing what's known as the energy component, the cost of the, producing the electricity itself. So once again, a fair amount of volatility. Rates kind of went up after you guys locked, and they've, bounced around since then. And they're actually currently, for that energy component, right around the same level as where you guys locked last time. However, kind of a little bit of foreshadowing here, one of the other components of electricity supply that's called capacity. You can really think of it as like a grid reliability cost. This is what's helping reserve that excess capacity for the times that are anticipated to be the highest usage that usually coincide with, extreme weather events, the hottest and coldest times of the year. The cost for that component just went up starting, last month, June 1st, 2025. It went up, almost 10x what it had been the last several years. It went from a fraction of a cent to well over 2 cents per kilowatt hour. And so that's the perfect segue into this slide. And to boil it down, like what is really going on with capacity, it's essentially, think back to Econ 101, it's a supply-demand problem. This is not unique to us in Illinois or even in ComEd in Illinois. This is nationwide. Our growth in demand for electricity and our projected future use of electricity is going up way faster than we're adding new generation to meet those new future higher demands for electricity. And largely this is due to the widespread adoption of artificial intelligence and the data centers that power that AI. So in terms of this graph, this is showing, this isn't really your rate, right? But this is showing the ComEd rate to compare. So essentially the ComEd supply rate, and you can see that huge spike, when that number got added into their supply rate, the difference from essentially May to June. You can go on to the next slide at this point. All right, so that gets us to renewal rates. And you can see it here. So once again, we're just over 5.7 cents per kilowatt hour. And I'm going to show you actually two sets of renewal rates here tonight, and I'll get into the why in a second. But first, I wanted you to see the apples to apples comparison. This is the exact same product that you guys have right now, where it just says fixed there in that product type column. That means every component of electricity is fixed. So, this is roughly 3 cents higher than where you guys locked a few years ago. The lion's share of that is due to that increase in capacity cost. It's almost a 40%, 35 to 40% increase over where you guys locked last time, once again, just mostly due to that huge increase in capacity. So if you want to go to the next slide, this is actually what we're recommending for the future for your next electricity agreement. And this is really what a lot of other districts in ComEd are doing, that have had fully fixed rates in the past. A lot of them, most of them are electing to switch to what's known as passing through capacity and transmission. So everything but that, so the energy, the ancillaries, the losses, those are all still totally and completely fixed. But the reason that we're recommending, so you still have to pay that capacity component, I should say that as well, right? It's not included in that rate. That's why these look significantly lower. But when you pass it through, all you do then is pay on every month on the invoice, you pay that, true market rate with no premium, no markup put on there by the supplier. And the reason that we're recommending switching to this is because that huge increase that we just experienced in terms of capacity, it kind of changed the game a little bit in terms of how suppliers are treating a fully fixed rate. So in the past, there would be minor increases or decreases in a component like capacity, and if you had a fully fixed rate, you still just paid that fully fixed rate. However, they've always had language in there that covered them in the case of something like this happening. And so this, everybody's been kind of anticipating. We weren't sure when it was going to happen in terms of the big increase in capacity. And so the suppliers were generally claiming like a change in law. They were, referring back to their contracts to say that, we didn't know about this cost at the time you locked in. If you locked in for, a 3-year agreement, they only knew about it for maybe 2 years. They didn't know about it for the last year. And so they are reserving the right to, pass through that additional cost on top of what, you locked to where that new capacity component came in at. And, due to that, it really, in our opinion, it just doesn't really make sense to continue to pay that premium to lock it if it isn't going to be a 100% true lock. As well, in addition to that, it actually gives you a little bit more flexibility to kind of change your usage behavior, like Travis is talking about, and then actually get an added benefit of, when you're using less in terms of, your usage, whatever that might be, you're then going to pay a lower capacity cost for that. So that's really the thought process behind switching from a fully fixed rate to passing through capacity and transmission. So that takes us to natural gas. Your current rate's just a little over 50 cents a therm. And much like, I was saying everything was fixed for the electricity, it's very similar here for the natural gas. So you have what's known as a 100% swing, which protects you against any, big variations in weather. If it's a really, really cold January, like we had this past year, it protects you from using more than your historical usage profile, and you still just pay, that exact fixed rate. So current supplier is Constellation, expires right around the same time next year in 26. And once again, that just shy of $200,000 for your 394,000 therms does not include the NICOR charges, taxes, fees. In terms of the market here, it's been a lot less volatile than the electricity side. We saw things, go up earlier this year, and thankfully they've come back down. It doesn't totally show here because, this chart's from earlier in the month, but, we're right now, renewal rates for this winter are actually back down as low as they have been since the end of last year. So, I consider that to be a really good thing. In terms of what's going to happen in the future, hard to say. It does look like we're trying to increase our exports of liquefied natural gas, but there's also currently a lot of incentives to produce more as well. So I think that takes us to rates. So this is a slightly different equation. I consider this good news. I know we're still almost a year out, but there's, currently there's renewal rates for natural gas, exact same product that you guys have right now, that are just below where you guys are currently locked. So this is kind of one of those rare situations where you can lock it in and pay no more into the future as far as you guys are comfortable locking that term. And I think this is our last slide. Yeah, all right, perfect. I didn't talk forever. Do you guys have anything I can help to clear up, or any questions you guys have for me?
So more of maybe a question for you. So the bigger expense is the electricity versus the natural gas
Yes.
for the district. Could you just maybe just explain just generally, like, do we have as much flexibility on both sides of changing behavior and things like that? Like just a little bit on where those, energy needs are drawn from primarily?
Yeah, so there's several things that we do with our behaviors. One is obviously with when we're trying to reduce our consumption,
Yeah.
right? With improving our efficiency. We also are active in a couple different things. So we're part of a load reduction program. So we actually get notifications, and if during a certain time we can use less energy during that time, we'll get additional money back.
Also
right?
known as demand response.
Demand response.
And I should say, and I was trying to be as brief as possible, but the payments that you guys get for participating in demand response are directly correlated with the cost of capacity. So with the cost of capacity going way up, that means the payments that you could potentially receive for participating in demand response, they went up just the same.
Okay.
So, and the other thing that piggybacks off of that, we get, again, with our advisors, we get email notifications like this week. They give, hey, if they were going to pull, because our capacity is based off of, basically, they look and say, when is it likely that you're going to kind of have your highest capacity? And then they pull from that. So we actually during those times that we get, hey, this might be a time when they're looking at that more heavily, we actually try to reduce our consumption during that time as well. So we are active during normal operating hours to reduce some of those, but not affect our education that's going on. So it's a fine line and a balance that we do there. But we also, last time that we met with Becky, with Nania, we talked about what are some of the things that we can do for like our startup of our systems, our close down of our systems, right? So we're constantly looking at how we're operating our current systems. Yep. I do all right on that?
You did great.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't feel the need to jump in at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not Becky, so my esteemed colleague, I'm here in her absence this evening. So.
The last agreement, was it a 3-year one, the one that's expiring right now, that's going to expire in June of '26? Is that, okay. Is that kind of, looking at the numbers, that kind of seems like it'd be like the sweet spot? Like, is that where, like you said, other districts are going to paying the capacity, the pass-through with the capacity? Are a lot of them doing 3-year contracts, or what's the general?
I would say most are doing 2 or 3.
2 or 3, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it depends, right? That's not everybody, but
Yeah.
I would say in terms of most other districts are doing it is more like a 2 or 3 year agreement.
Okay.
Where that sweet spot is at kind of changes all
exactly.
the time and with the market. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, answering a question didn't totally ask, but it looks like the cost for electricity is just going to keep going up. So, maybe not so much for natural gas. Maybe we can that will provide a little bit of relief over the next couple of years to kind of balance against what looks to be an ever-increasing electricity rate.
You mentioned the AI kind of generation piece part of the spike. I mean, is the kind of increase in extreme weather events like this incredibly hot summer, is that a big factor as well, or is it really more?
I mean, it is, and the unpredictability of it especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if we talk about just heat, right? I mean, as we have more of those, like that heat dome that was over us in June, which was, kind of unprecedented in the past. The entire middle of the country was using way more electricity than they usually do in June.
Yeah.
And that certainly presents, some problems. I mean, we were fine through that, thankfully. I think the operators of the grid did a really great job of managing. And we didn't actually, most people didn't get called on demand response then, but it was looking like it was going to be really close.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'd say yes, it's fair to say that more extreme weather events certainly drive price volatility when it comes to energy in general. So it makes it harder to predict into the future too, just exactly what's going to happen. And really, that's one of the biggest benefits of being able to lock in your rate and budget for it, is that if you do have one of those extreme events, that usually just temporarily shoots prices really, really, really high. And so when you're locked in ahead of time, you're also protected from that.
So kind of what we're looking at as we move forward, those rates are no longer like what was on there, right? They change daily. I don't know if it's more frequently than daily.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, so energy, both electricity and natural gas, traded on the futures market, much like a stock, but it's traded a month at a time. And I should have mentioned this before, maybe I didn't. We talked a lot about capacity. So the most recent capacity auction for the next capacity year, that's June 26 to May 27. We just got the results of that mid last week, actually after the rates that came in that are in the board packet right now. And unfortunately, it went up again. So not the 10x almost increase that we saw before, but it did go up another 22%. It went from $270 a megawatt day to like $328 or something like that. So. Yes, things are constantly changing, and especially on the electricity side, it looks like that volatility is going to remain.
From my previous experience of entering in these types of agreements, a lot of times between the time that we get the quote and the time that the board meeting happens, they've changed, right? And so it's really hard to lock those in. So what we're doing is we're seeking at this next board meeting kind of that pre-approval for us to look at the futures, work with Nania, and figure out what's the best timing for that, and be able to pull the trigger so we can lock that in. And then we would obviously bring the board and say, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we did. It does look like it's a shorter duration for that agreement, around that 2 to 3, but that could change as we look at it. So that's why the ask would be for up to 48 months, that we would be able to have that flexibility to be able to do that. But doing it in a way that we are trying, again, to mitigate those extra costs as much as we can. So that's really the ask as a result of that we would come back next month to the board and ask for that. Any additional questions that you guys have?
Is this up to 48 months would be 4 years?
Yes.
Okay, even though it's typically 2 to 3, okay.
Yep. And they could be different for the energy and natural gas, right? So
Oh,
it doesn't,
okay.
they're with different entities, so.
The duration of the contract could be different?
Yeah, you guys did the same last time, I
Yes.
believe, but you could split them up. I mean, certainly some
Stagger.
districts do that as a way to kind of hedge their bets a little bit. You know, you go long with one and short with the other. There's a lot of different schools of thought, and
Yeah, it's playing the
whatever
futures
fits
market
what you're
community.
doing,
Yeah.
you know, the best. For sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, e-learning plan. Jeff's going to take this one.
All right, well, we are up for renewal for our e-learning plan, which, of course, is the learning plan that's used for what formerly and popularly were known as snow days. As you can see up here, the summary of our plan, and we also, we're at that 5-year period, so I think Scott had a 3-year renewal. This is our 5-year renewal for this plan here, so these odd numbers always work out. But again, the summary of our plan up there, students will check in synchronously. We're moving forward right now with the same plan we had last year, so there's no real changes. Obviously, this is just the requirement, rinse and repeat. We are required to have a public hearing because of the e-learning laws and rules around that, so that'll be at the next board meeting. A couple of the other required pieces associated with that as well are notification to the public about the hearing, so that's going to be in the Daily Herald for up to 10 days, so that'll start by August 8th, and then as well as notification also 10 days prior to the board meeting for our staff and for our families as well, so that's going to be in a forthcoming email from Hank also by August 8th. So we have everything in line for that. Once that comes to the hearing, and if you approve the plan, then we submit our paperwork to the ROE and ISB, and we're good for another 5 years then. So, any questions? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's the same plan we've been using, and actually, we've had a couple of e-learning days over the last few years, and I have heard no concerns from families regarding it. So, seems to be working. We made a couple of tweaks this year, and those were well received, and they're
We
reflected.
have like 2 or 3 a year? Is that how many we typically?
No, maybe one.
Oh, okay.
It's rare that we get.
Yeah, really?
It's usually 1 or 2. I think the most that we've had, maybe 3 in the last, a year with 3. Had a bunch of ice, when we had the.
3 years ago, I think, yeah, it was cold and icy.
Oh, we had a year or two, we had none, too.
Yeah, right, yeah. It was the polar vortex year. Which was it seemed like every Monday, the polar vortex came through. So, all right, this one will be back.
Next month.
Next month. All right, Freedom of Information requests. We receive them, we fill them, we list them on our website. You can find them there. Consent agenda.
Okay, so before the board votes on the consent agenda, is there any agenda item a board member would like to pull out of the consent agenda for further discussion? Okay, seeing none, asking for a motion for the Board of Education to approve the consent agenda as presented, which includes A, personnel report, appointment certified, contract adjustment certified, appointment classified, B, personnel report, resignation certified, resignation classified, C, personnel report, termination classified, D, June financial pages, E, review of closed session minutes and verbatim recordings, F, commercial insurance policies, G, acceptance of donation, Chicago Bears Football Club, and H, acceptance of donation, DGN Booster Club. So the action item is calling for a motion. Oh,
We- we
sorry.
need a- we
need to make a motion
for-
and a
Oh,
second.
sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Chris, so moved. Mike, second.
Thank you. Christopher Espinoza,
Aye.
Michael Riskey,
Aye.
Ken Dawson,
Aye.
April Finan,
Aye.
and Kara Caston.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for those donations from both Chicago Bears and the Boosters Club.
Okay, next action item is a motion for the Board of Education to accept the tentative budget for the 2025-2026 fiscal year and establish 6:30 PM, September 22nd, 2025, for the public hearing to be held at the Administrative Center, 6301 Springside Ave, Downers Grove, Illinois.
So moved.
Second.
Chris, thank you. Michael Riskey,
Aye.
Christopher Espinoza,
Aye.
April Finan,
Aye.
Ken Dawson,
Aye.
and Kara Caston.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
We have no slips?
No visitors?
No visitors, but no slips.
No visitors requesting to speak. Let me clarify that, thank you.
Okay, so next up are updates on our respective committees. So I have a LEND update. LEND sent a very informative update to members on the status of releasing federal funding for education. The total amount of federal funds for Illinois fiscal year 2026 totals $240 million. Just wanted to point out, Governor Pritzker is one of the 16 governors urging for release of the funds. As Hank mentioned, 20% were recently released, TBD, if and when the remaining funds are released, but we're hopeful. The impact on Illinois with these federal funds, academic support, student well-being, equity-focused programs, and staffing stability. Additionally, they talk about how, as we've seen in the news, the DOE has been downsized, and this does put more burden on schools to monitor equity, civil rights, and IDEA, which is the special education funding. As we've already talked about, some of the tariffs on tech and goods purchased by schools, but we've obviously done a great job of advance ordering to head that off. The update from LEND also included the $370 million state budget that was approved for fiscal year 2026, but some of that may be called in to cover any federal funds that don't come in. So again, just to reiterate, federal funding, very small portion, 4% of D99's budget, right? So, and as we've talked about tonight already, we're always looking for ways to operate more efficiently and effectively so that we can manage these flexible funds that we can't always count on. And we have our next, our actually first full LEND meeting of the year is September 19th. So that was really the big summer update. Was there anything else you'd?
Gina and I attended, because I chair the mandates committee. We met actually here today with the committee to talk about legislative priorities for the upcoming year. I had a really good meeting. A reminder that like our big bill that was sponsored by our own representative Tara Costa Howard here that went all the way through and became a major priority for Governor Pritzker this year and has been a major priority for this district and this board for a very long time. Started here last year, right, in that meeting. So it's been a
Dual credit. You
dual
didn't mention
credit.
it yet.
Oh, sorry, dual credit. Yeah, that dual credit bill. So that I heard today is being referred to as the Hank bill. So I'm getting credit for that. So, but it was a good team effort by all of the education advocates across the state, led by LEND, of course. So we're really active here in DuPage at trying to make things better for our kids at the state level. Like I said, really productive meeting today, and we'll see when we have that first meeting in September what is determined to be their kind of legislative agenda for the upcoming year.
Great. Chris, do you want to update us on SACID?
We haven't had a meeting since May 28th, but we've got one next Wednesday when they present the budget for a public hearing, and then we'll approve the budget pending no major complaints. And it should have been available to all the board members, but if you need a copy of it, I can send it over. So I'll have more at the next meeting.
Okay, great. April, our District 99 Education Foundation?
Yeah, we've had one very brief meeting this summer. A lot of folks on summer holiday. But kind of exciting because the new school year is when a lot of the requests for grants come in from teachers. And it's also when we're going to start ramping up fundraising. I didn't realize this, but the majority of the money that the Education Foundation collects is during registration. So during student registration, when parents log on, they're doing it online and they're saying, okay, I'm signing up my kid for school this year, and also, yes, I would like to make a donation. The interface, the web interface is kind of clunky, so we're working on updating that, making it a little bit more user-friendly. And so that's a big push for the fall. The other thing that we talked about is our angel funds are becoming slightly depleted. So we kind of brainstormed, and we're going to actually start a fundraising committee to try to work on that. So hopefully we'll have some kind of bigger fundraising events this year. So more to come on that.
Right.
Thanks.
Ken, do you have an IASB update?
As you guys know, we have the annual conference in November, so I believe we're all signed up, ready to go on that. That will be very exciting. There's also in September on a Saturday, a one-day event for new school board members, and it's going to be from 9 to 3 at Hotel Arista in Naperville. So that would be a fantastic opportunity for you and
Already signed up.
oh, fantastic, and our other new board members, and that's about it.
All right.
All right, just a reminder, our next meeting is August 18th, 6:30 PM at the Administrative Center, Service Center here.
It's also the first day of school.
Oh, the first day of school, exciting.
So we should have our students here to tell you how the first day went.
So I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved?
Second.
Let's move 10 second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me.
Oh, I say all in favor.
Please.
All in favor, so.
Aye.
Aye. All right, newbie.
Bang the gavel, say we're adjourned.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Very good, very
Thank
good.
you.
Well done, Matt.
Great job, Kara.
Not bad.